everybody, welcome back to another very exciting Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. How are you today? Happy Friday. Let me take a look at the chat and see who is here. Sam, Sean, Ted, Noir, Justin, Claire, Susan, Anthony, Tunk, Steve, Valentine. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. How are you guys doing? Okay, I'm excited today because today is the last day of my Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, but don't worry, there'll be another one starting next week, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But if you're joining me for the first time, make sure that you go into this page. Whoops, it looks like my screen there is not showing. Give me 1 second and try to get it online. Sorry about that. Give me one quick second. Anyway, I was going to say, if this is your first time joining me, then make sure that you go into challenge, behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, and you download today's assets, which is going to be a pattern stream. We're going to work on a t-shirt, and this t-shirt we're going to create a pattern for, and I'm going to show you how to blend it into a shirt so that it looks realistic. So make sure that you go into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, and there's the page here. That's what it looks like. And what you need to do is scroll down to the bottom of the page, and under these boxes, under the unlock challenges boxes, make sure that you go into the very last one, March 27th, and click on get started. That will open up a new tab, and you'll see this PSD here. Like I said, it's a photo of a shirt, and you can click on the download button, then open that up in Photoshop, and this is what the file will look like. And I'm going to explain what all these different colors and things are. I decided to get the template going for you just because it will take so much time to actually do it during the live stream. So I decided to just explain how it works and then show you how to create the pattern and apply the pattern onto the shirt. So that's what we'll talk about in a moment. But make sure that you also scroll back up and go into the join the community chat tab so that you open up Discord and you submit the work that you're creating with me. So make sure that you click under current challenges right up above my head here, current challenge, and you submit your work. As you can see, people have been submitting the book cover challenge that we did yesterday, challenge number 8, and there's a lot of good work here. So thank you guys so much for submitting the work. This is really cool. Okay, cool. So actually, this is really cool. So this is a challenge that we did on creating a superhero effect, but this person found a tutorial where I showed how to create a comic book drawings from your photos. So he actually took the challenge in one of my tutorials and created that. So good job there. But anyway, so make sure that you come in here and submit your work, and yeah, I'd love to see it. I'm there. All the other Adobe mentors are there. The Adobe team. You'll find Tim, Claudia from Print My Soul, Voodoo Val. We're all there. So make sure that you come in here and submit your work. Cool. Let me just take a quick look at the chat. Awesome. Somebody wrote, yikes, that's ugly. I'm guessing they're talking about the face mash thing that we did. Awesome. So it looks like there's no questions. Let me know where you guys are watching from. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. I see that somebody is for Burlington, Ontario, Canada. That's Bernhard. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's Friday. It's the last challenge, unfortunately. I'm very sad, but I was very happy to be here with you guys for the last 10 days working on all these different challenges. If you missed them, you can scroll down and click on the watch video buttons under each one so that you can watch the replays. Also, if you watch them all and you still want to watch more daily creative challenges, you can keep scrolling down and you can explore the past challenges, and you'll find challenges from myself, from Kathleen Martin, from Voodoo Val, Claudia from Print My Soul. I think maybe even Paul Tranny might have some in here. So just make sure that you scroll down and you have a whole bunch of daily creative challenges to work on. So if you're at home right now with not having much to do, this is a great resource for you guys. So make sure that you come and check out the old Photoshop Daily Creative Challenges. So they're all there, all recorded, all saved for you, and the Get Started files are also there for those past challenges. So we got people from the UK, Andrew from London, Claire from UK, Maui, Hawaii, Carlos, Istanbul, Turkey, awesome, Tunuk, New York. I hope you're staying safe, everybody out there. Scott from Seattle, Wolfgang from Austria, Valentine from New Orleans, Cyprus, Susan, Anthony from the UK, Nurdin from India. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. It's awesome to have you, especially since it's people from all over the world. We got Tom's from Latvia. Cool. All right, guys. So let's get going with the challenge for today. So again, if you want to follow along with me, make sure that you click on the patterns challenge and click on get started. And this is the file that you should download, which is the file that contains this photo with this man in his shirt. Now, I would recommend that you use this file to practice with, and once you've mastered the technique, you can take a photo of any piece of clothing. It doesn't have to be a shirt. It could be a jacket, it could be pants, it could be anything. But the point is that you are going to have to isolate different areas of the shirt. So for example, in this group, I have something called shirt shapes. And I divided it into the main actual shirt and then each of the sleeves. And the way that you're going to know how to divide your article of clothing is basically, the way that I like to do it is where the seam of the actual article of clothing is. In this case, in the shirt, there's seams that create the sleeves. So the shirt has a sleeve here, and you can actually see it on the photo. So use that to guide you, because you're in reality, what you're thinking about is we're going to take like if it was a piece of cloth, right? How would it wrap around the person, where the seam is? It wouldn't just be one giant piece of, cloth that will make up the shirt. It's different pieces. So that's what I was trying to recreate here. And the way that you should recreate the pieces is by using the curvature pen tool and just select path and just follow the contours of the article of clothing. And obviously I'm going really quickly here because I already have it done, but I just kind of want to show you what I did after that. So after I, went around the entire area, and obviously it's not perfect, I then went back and refined it. You can double click on these points to create sharp corners, and then you can click and drag from the middle and drag up or down to further adjust the path along the edge of the shirt. When you're done, you can just create a solid color, and Photoshop actually uses that path as the shape of your solid color. So there it is. So that's how I created those shapes. And obviously I took way more time when I worked on the shapes that you'll find in this group. So here we go. We have the main shirt, we have the right sleeve, and we have the left sleeve. So I just wanted to get those shapes defined. Now, what I wanted to do next was apply highlights and shadows to those to bring back the highlights and shadows of the shirt to give it its shape back. And what I did was simply duplicate the background image. So Control J, Command J on the Mac, drag that up, and then I press Control Alt G, Command Option G to clip it into that group with all the shapes. And then I press Control Shift U, Command Shift U on the Mac to desaturate. And let me make sure that I have everything working properly here. Yeah, I do. Notice that let me unclip it so you can see that it's black and white. See that? It's black and white. So Control Alt Shift U, Command Option Shift U on the Mac, or you can go into Image, Adjustment, and desaturate, and you'll see the keyboard shortcut there. But the point is that now that it's black and white, Control Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac, and I have all my shapes, I need to make sure that I change the blending mode so that I either create shadows or highlights. So let's start with the shadows. So if I go into multiply, you can see that I start bringing in the shadows into the red. You see that? See here on the bottom and here on his sleeves as well. So that's created by this layer. See that? And then you can adjust it by going into Image, Adjustment, Levels, and then adjusting the contrast if you want the shadows to show more or less. And it's totally up to you. So you can keep adjusting it accordingly. And then you would do the same thing, but with the highlights. And for the highlights, I could have gone with screen, but I thought that color dodge was giving me a better result. And obviously in this case, it's too strong, so I would need to go into image adjustment levels and then darken the image just so that I can get the brightest of the highlights, right? And then just keep adjusting it accordingly to get the highlights. So that's how I created the shadows and highlights layers that you see there. So that's where we're gonna start. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up on how those layers were created and why they were created that way. And let's get started with creating the pattern. Awesome. Jasper, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too. Thank you for joining us. Cool. Mia, I really need to memorize these shortcuts to keep up with the. Sometimes I don't even remember where the menus are anymore because I just remember the shortcuts. Like now you kind of saw me go into image adjustment and I was like, I know it's in here somewhere. Oh yeah, there it is. So yeah, that's the downside of forgetting or remembering the shortcuts. You kind of forget where the menus are sometimes. But anyway, that's why they're shortcuts, I guess, so that you don't have to spend time searching for the menu. And yeah, Louis, you need please watch it again. Usually the way that I recommend watching not just my daily creative challenges, but everybody's daily creative challenges is since they're really not that long, you have time to maybe watch its entirety so that you know what's coming and then follow along while watching. So essentially watching it twice, that makes it a lot easier than just try to follow along from one go. But anyway, so the first thing that we need to do is create a pattern. And I have this photo of Venice here, and it's just basically these windows. And what I'm going to do is in the libraries panel, and if you don't see that, you can go into window and libraries. You are going to need to click on this plus icon, and from the plus icon, make sure that you click on create from image. And this is going to open up Capture inside of Photoshop. So Capture is a mobile application from Adobe, obviously, that allows you to capture patterns, shapes, color themes, gradients, and the mobile version also gives you the ability to capture 3D textures or photos to make 3D textures, 3D textures for dimension. Unfortunately, that part of it is not available in Photoshop, but you do get the patterns, the shapes, the color themes, and the gradients. And we're going to look at the first option, which is patterns. And you can see that you have different types of patterns that you can select here on the top. So just click on the one that looks better to your eye. It doesn't have to be the same one that I select. I think that in this case, I like this one here, the second from the last. And you can do a color mode or grayscale. I like color mode, so I'm going to stick with the color. And you can adjust the scale. So how much am I zooming into this image here? You can see how I zoomed into the image, and this is the resulting pattern that I get. And I can rotate it as well. So you can have a lot of fun creating a pattern for your shirt. So it just depends on what you want to go for. So in this case, I think this looks pretty cool. So I'm going to click on Save to Libraries. And you'll notice that Photoshop will save that pattern here on my libraries panel. It'll save it on whatever library you currently have open. And I'm just going to close that for now. And my pattern is here, right here. I don't need my Venice layer anymore, so I'll just disable it and I'll scroll down. And we're going to work inside of the shirt shapes group. And what I'm going to do, excuse me. And what I'm going to do is click on the capture pattern and drag it into my group. And that's what it looks like. And so that we can see it better, we need to disable the highlights and shadows. And as you can see, it's a huge pattern. So I'm just going to double click on the thumbnail and just scale it down. And we'll try something small like 5%. And that's a little more manageable, maybe even smaller for the shirt, maybe 3%, something not too big, something like that. If I press Control-Alt-G, Command-Option-G on the Mac, I'll clip it to the shape that is directly below, in this case, the main shape. A clipping mask simply means that the layer in the bottom controls the visibility of the layer on top. the visible pixels of the layer on the bottom will make sure that the visibles on the only visible pixels in the layer on top will be those same pixels. So if there's transparency, then the layer on top will hide the pixels in that area. So that's why we get the shape of the main shirt layer, which is that red shape I created there. And now we could do a couple things. First of all, I'm gonna need to rasterize this layer because I'm gonna need to like distort it. So I could do a couple things. I could create a layer mask and then move it around, but I think that it might be better if you just rasterize it because they're easy to create. So in this case, even though most of the times I like to work non-destructively, in this case I don't really think you have to. You can convert it into a smart object if you want, but I think it's just better if you don't, but totally up to you. So basically what you need to do is right click on the pattern fill layer and select on rasterize layer. That is now a pixel layer. It's no longer a pattern. And what I'm gonna do now is think about it as a piece of cloth, right? So this is my piece of cloth right here, just basically like that. It's just like one rectangle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete the layer mask and then create a new layer mask so that it applies that selection. And then I'm gonna right click and apply the layer mask. So basically what I did there is just cut out the areas that I didn't want. So now I just have one rectangle. And so that you can see it, I'm going to unclip it. You can unclip by pressing Control-Alt-G, Command-Option-G on the Mac. And that's what I have, just one rectangle of the pattern. And I'll press Control-Alt-G once again to put the pattern back onto the shirt. And what I'm gonna do now is convert this actual layer into a smart object. So this one I do want it to be a smart object because I'm gonna make some distortions and some transformations and I want to be able to edit those. So I didn't necessarily want to edit the pattern itself. I was happy with it, but I don't wanna have to edit the other things. By the way, if I enable the highlights and shadow layers, you can see what that's looking like. And I may need to adjust them and that's fine. But for now, I'm just gonna work with what I have. So in this case, I may decide to bring down the fill for the highlight because it might be too strong, and also the shadows may be too strong. So you can adjust those layers if you need to. But anyway, so now that I have my pattern right here that is a smart object, what I could do is distort it so that it better matches the shape of the shirt. So I can go into the keyboard and press Control-T, Command-T to transform, right-click and select Warp. And I can use these points and click and drag them down, sort of to make it feel as if the shirt is going over his shoulder so that it's not completely flat. See that? See how I'm making it seem as if the shirt's going over his shoulder? Then maybe I can create one of these horizontal splits like right about here and maybe drag up a little bit just because, you know, it looks like he's in shape, so his body's coming up and it looks like I'm going over the line here now, so I gotta be really careful. So I'm just gonna click and drag these points up a little more and just fine tune it. Now I can keep making these splits and adjusting the image accordingly. So I'm just gonna create a few more and then maybe drag some of these in because I can see that the shirt's going in sort of like right at above his hip there, his waist, and go in like so. And I can create more of these splits down here. And I know that some of you who are a little more advanced might be thinking, well, why not use actually let me undo that. And I forgot to bring these up from the beginning. So I gotta bring these up before I add the other split. But I was gonna say, I know that some of you may be thinking, well, why not use the distort feature for this? Because what the distort filter allows you to do is to create the illusion that things are going over a surface. And you could use it, but I find that it doesn't always give you the best result because it doesn't make it seem like it's the piece of pattern is going over the clothing. So I like to just do it manually because I think I could probably do a job that just looks more realistic to my eye. So that's why I'm doing this method. But what I would do here is just add all these different points and then just bring them in like so. Really make them look like they're folded and I can continue creating all these different ones. And obviously, oops, see, you can't go too far because then it doesn't look realistic. So you can bring it in and start working with it accordingly. You can also create vertical splits. So I can create a vertical split here and then maybe bring this down a little bit. Definitely bring the ones here down a little bit more. And to be frank with you, once you're done with this, you can even apply one of those distort filters that I was talking about, and it might help you a little bit. But anyway, so for the sake of time, I'm going to just leave it here. And then once I've done all this work, what I'll do is go into filter, liquify, and I can use the liquify filter to further liquify areas of the shirt that don't look like they're folded properly. And to make sure that I can see what I'm doing, I'll click on show backdrop, and from the from the backdrop, I can see the background and I can start adjusting pixels accordingly. So I can start further enhancing the folds to make it seem as if the shirt is really going into those creases, like so. And this also becomes very useful in areas like, and I'll show you by increasing the opacity here, in areas like under his arm here where it bends a little more, like so. And actually I'm being a little heavy-handed there. I need to be a little softer so it doesn't create such a big distortion. And when you're done, you can just press OK. So you can see that it's looking pretty good so far. And what you would do at this point is just repeat this process on the sleeve. Let me see if I have some time. It looks like I have a little bit of time to do the same thing on one of the sleeves. So I'll go a little quicker for the sleeve, but it's exactly the same process, right? So I'll select the right sleeve, bring down the pattern, delete the layer mask. I think we used, was it 3%? See, that's one thing you have to remember, what percentage you use for the scale. I think we used 3%. 3% scale, and make sure that you crop it to the right sleeve like so, or not crop it, but create a mask. Right click, rasterize, create the layer mask, apply the layer mask, right click, and select convert to smart object, and then you can clip it to the layer below. Control Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac, and that looks actually really good without doing too much work. But what I would do now is press Control T, Command T to transform, right click, and select the warp feature, and then just warp that accordingly. See that? See how I'm now warping this so that it looks more realistic. And you can create your splits, you can add the liquify feature, you can do anything that you want. And I was going to show you one other thing. So if you decide that the highlights and shadows are still not working, so I'm not very happy with the shadows, you can always change the blending mode. You can try screen and see if that works better. In some cases, screen will work better. In other cases, color dodge will work better. So just try them both and see what works better with the pattern that you create, because the color of the patterns that you're using will influence which blending mode will work better. So in this case, I think the color dodge might be a little too strong, so I'll go into screen, and then I can maybe increase it, not too much, just a tiny little bit, but totally up to you which method you use. And when you're done with everything, what you can do is you could also create a curves or levels adjustment layer, whatever you're more comfortable with. Levels is a little easier to use, so I'll create a levels adjustment layer on top of everything, clip it to the layer below, and then I can adjust the whole shirt accordingly just to match it better to the composite. You can also create a hue and saturation adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below, and then adjust the saturation. Maybe the pattern that you had a really strong saturation and it doesn't really match the composite, so you can bring the saturation down if you like, and just keep using the adjustment layers to help you blend it all together. So this is what I would recommend that you do if you ever want to place patterns on articles of clothing. It looks like I am out of time. I just want to see if I can answer any questions. Cheryl, could you create a displacement for the shirt? I kind of talked about a little bit about that. You could, but I find that it does a good job on if it's just like a nice, like a tiny little wrinkle or curve or crease. But if it's a big, huge crease like here on the bottom of the shirt, it doesn't look that good in my opinion. Or on under the arms here on the armpit area, it wouldn't look. Doesn't look good to my eyes, so I prefer to do it manually. But sure, you could definitely do that. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys being with me for 2 weeks. Don't forget to watch the replays, behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, and make sure that you watch all the videos. Click on the Get Started button to download the files that I'm using, but make sure that you upload your work on Discord. Discord is found under the community chat, and you can see the link right up above my head, and you can go into current challenge and make sure that you upload the work that you created with me so far, and also make sure that you upload your work onto Behance itself. If you go into my Behance profile, you'll be able to see the Daily Creative Challenge project that I created with the before and afters of all the challenges. I haven't added the challenges for this week, but I'll be doing that very soon. So make sure that you do the same. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll hope to see you again the next time I do a creative challenge or a Adobe live stream. Thank you guys so much. Take care, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye-bye.